Goberera n'empaya ebirowoozo byange ne government nayo nevaayo neteeka lyerimu era waliwo ensonga ezikwatagana mu mateeka ago gombi nga ffenna tuwa ebiteeso ebifaanana naye ate waliwo ebimu ebiteeso byaffe ebitafaanana. Ekintu kitandikira mu linnya. Nze ndowooza nti oba okukakkanyiza obwetaavu bw'etteeka lye tuli mu kukola okuliyita physical activity. Physical activity ebanga PE kusanyukamu. Naye ate twagala kwogera ku commercial sport. Naye notandika okugiyita nti etteeka oliyise physical activity. Already oba otandikidde kugunda enkyamu.
While meeting the Committee on Education and Sports this Tuesday, 13th December 2022, Minister Ogwang said that there was an attempt at a retreat held in May 2022 to harmonize the two draft bills. But Honorable Moses Magogo denied the claim of the harmonizing meeting with government.
The fact is that there has not been a harmonization between the private member and the government. However, it is possible that we can still sit down between the two parties. The areas that are common and agreed upon are highlighted. The areas that we disagree upon are also highlighted.
Procedure matter. I don't know whether we are proceeding well. By government hijacking the bill of Honorable Engineer Magogo at such a time. Now, what will he tell the voters if they hijack? Because, we are evaluated with our performance.
On the other hand, Minister Ogwang defended the decision to enact a sports legislation to address the current challenges of sports administration and management in Uganda.
We are not hijacking. There's a precedent how bills have been processed before, where a private member harmonizes a bill with the government. And all we aim at is coming up with a bill for the management of sport in Uganda.
Ogwanga further said that there was need for the physical activity and sports bill in line with the modern national and international sports policies, conventions, and the National Physical Education and Sports Policy of Uganda of 2004.
Here we are dealing with a specific activity which must be managed by people who understand it. Even me as a minister, the new amendment which cabinet has guided, it gives me powers to appoint members who understand, who have knowledge of sports.
It's not about hijacking, it's not about who is bringing it, as long as we can come out with a bill.
The chairperson of the Education Committee, Honorable John Ndejje, ruled that since both sides failed to come up with one position, the committee will consider the two bills and come up with one legislation.
Both of them have requested that it's true. I think there are still differences, and that's a confirmation that there was no harmonization. So they have requested us that they go back and sit to try to harmonize, which as a committee we have accepted, but we have also reminded them that we are proceeding with our bills and the discussions will end on the 20th. The discussions and receiving presentations from different stakeholders, the meetings are going ahead up to 20th of December. We have given them up to that period to have given their responses. And we believe by the time they bring all this, we shall have harmonized the bill and come out with one bill concerning sports in this country, and also come with a report on floor of Parliament. We believe by 10th of January we shall have concluded. But in case there is a delay, we are not going to allow more than 2 weeks from 10th to conclude this matter. So what we believe as Parliament, and we want to assure Ugandans that Parliament will come out with a bill that is going to address the concerns of the sportsmen and women in this country and the country at large.
In the same committee, the sports minister also promised to address the media on troubles of CHAN competitions.
My good brother here is the president of FUFA. When you talk about CHAN, I and him discuss it more than any one of you here. I want to be sincere. He knows where the problem is. I know where the problem is. However, we are working towards addressing a problem, and I'm going to make a formal statement on behalf of government in line with the investigation.
Frank Senabuya, live at 8.
Thank you, Frank. Now, the leadership of police has acknowledged the Constitutional Court ruling that repealed and decriminalized the petty office of rogue and vagabond. In this, it stated that it is vague, archaic, and unconstitutional, and this has sparked off reactions among citizens. Asle Mojaru has the details.
The Constitutional Court in Kampala has nullified Section 1681C and Section 1681D of the Penal Code Act, which criminalizes being rogue and vagabond. Police has said they have with immediate effect stopped the arrest of sex workers and street beggars as it moves to implement the orders of the Constitutional Court that declare the offence of rag and vagabond unconstitutional.
Has acknowledged the Constitutional Court ruling that repealed or decriminalized the petty offence of rogue and vagabond from the Penal Code Act after it was found to be vague, archaic, and unconstitutional. So all police officers have with immediate effect been asked to fully comply with the ruling and stop any arrests for those minor infractions of rogue and vagabond. As a reminder, the behaviors that are no longer punishable or arrestable by law are the following: idle and disorderly, where a person being a prostitute behaves in a disorderly or indecent manner in any public place, you are no longer supposed to be arrested. A person who wanders or places himself or herself in a public place to beg or gather alms or causes or procures or encourages any child to do so, please just do your things. Plays any game of chance for money or money's worth in public place, gambling, playing Ludo for money, cards.
However, this has not gone well with some citizens who have refuted the court order, saying it's against the Public Order Management Act.
What the court did and what the police said is completely unlawful. It is against the Public Order Management law. But all that aside, starting from where we begin from, the society, under society laws, it is completely unmoral to let people simply wake up in the morning and go and start doing Ludo, start doing sex working, prostitution and all those things. It's completely unmoral.
My view, I think government has kind of tried to allow immorality. You see, the way it has come out to give people freedom to do all that, that means that now at the end of the day, people will not be able to go and work, hence promoting, trying to promote all sort of evil, for example, like safety in the society. Yeah, I think that's my view.
Other people who the police have been warned against arresting include those who are idle and disorderly, those playing indoor games such as Ludo, gamblers and beggars who display wounds on the streets to attract sympathy and get money. With different views from the public, some applaud the court for its decision.
Actually, the court is right. Because why I say it's right is due to the fact that idle and disorderly people mistake it to be unruly, but it's a source of employment to some youth due to the fact that there is unemployment in the country. And on the other side, I think the court is doing what the government wants. Since the judicial system is not fair, as we all know. In other countries, the system is independent, but in Uganda, it's not.
The government is called upon to help the people on the street and make laws to make sure people work harder to improve their livelihood.
Government should at least create a condition where everybody can access can access education, can access jobs, can access everything. These things of law of taxes, too many taxes, which they are the cause of people doing those things. So kindly, government should reconsider at least being on the side of the people.
Government would try to come up with a strict law whereby these laws will make these people to be able to go and work and also improve on their talents instead of sitting and playing.
Mbalesa wa government tunge ebakwatirize kwa afazale bino bintu babikoleke babijemu bana bala kusudikira afazale bafuna kuti obuyambi nabona bazana kugundi kadi kusuti mukubo bakoleki babijemu.
However, police said there are other low-level disorders that are still punishable by the law.
There are, however, other low-level disorders that are still punishable by law. For instance, common nuisance, where any person who does who does an act not authorized by law or omits to discharge a legal duty and thereby causes common injury or danger or annoyance or obstruct or causes inconvenience to the public. Such a person can still be arrested for being a common nuisance and charged. Then there are also offenses of persons found with intent, of persons found loitering.
Other offences mentioned are wandering in a public place to beg or gather alms or encouraging the act, playing any game for money or money's worth in any public place, publicly conducting oneself in a manner likely to cause breach of peace without lawful excuse, publicly doing an indecent act, exposure of wounds or deformation to obtain alms are unpunishable. 5 justices from the Court of Appeal, including Frederick Engenda Ntenda, Elizabeth Musoke, Christopher Madrama, Monica Mugenyi and Christopher Gashibareke ruled that the 2 sections which sympathizes freedom to movement to any place. Anselm Ojaro, live at 8.
Thank you, Anselm. The United States of America President Joe Biden welcomed 50 leaders for the African Leaders Summit. This intended to reset the Washington commitment to regions where China and Russia are also working to expand their influence. Agnes Nabugwao has the details.
The United States Africa Leaders Summit 2022 is an international summit held in Washington, D.C. from December 13th to 15th, 2022. Leaders from 49 African states and various African Union representatives attended the 3-day summit, which is hosted by United States President Joe Biden. The summit primarily focused on health, climate change, food security, cooperation in space, and security of the continent. The summit is the second edition of the event after the inaugural event was hosted in 2014. The United States aimed to resume diplomatic relations with African states after a gap during the tenure of President Donald Trump. On Wednesday 14, 2022, the President of USA, Joe Biden, during the summit in Washington, D.C., he announced new investments in Africa focusing on boosting trade and infrastructures as his administration seeks to counter inroads that China and Russia have made it in the continent.
The United States is all in on Africa's future because when Africa succeeds, the United States succeeds. Quite frankly, the whole world succeeds as well.
The new investments include a memorandum of understanding for new trade opportunities between USA and Africa, investments in infrastructures such as aid to build and maintain roads to encourage trade within the continent. Biden announced billions of dollars in new trade investments and an effort to help expand internet access to the continent, which the president said was necessary to boosting economic growth.
Congress, the U.S. will commit $55 billion to Africa over the course of the next 3 years across a wide range of sectors to tackle the core challenges of our time. These commitments build on the United States' long-standing leadership and partnership in development, economic growth, health, and security in Africa.
China has worked to grow trade relations with African nations and has developed major infrastructure projects, and Russia has expanded its military influence through mercenaries like the Wagner Group. The U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, during the summit session, said that employing mercenaries across the continent has defined stabilization between China and Russia as well.
Regarding Russia and China, the PRC, we're witnessing the PRC expand its footprint on the continent on a daily basis. And as they do that, they're also expanding their economic influence. The troubling piece there is that they're not always transparent in terms of what they're doing, and that creates problems that will be eventually destabilizing if they're not already.
The summit is part of a renewed push to boost ties as China gains influence with trade, investment, and lending drives. It's not the first time for African leaders to have such a summit. President Barack Obama held his own U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in 2014, complete with gala dinner under a tent on the White House South Lawn. He promised then to take action to help build more prosperity and security in Africa. But his predecessor, Donald Trump, largely ignored Africa, never visiting the continent and even rudely discouraging certain African nations in a 2018 meeting as shithole countries. In previewing this week's U.S. summit, American officials have been careful to avoid framing Africa as a pawn in a larger geographical strategy. Instead, they sought to emphasize Biden's interest in cultivating ties that would benefit both the U.S. and Africa, and fighting ways to harness the continent's potential. Agnes Nabugwa, live at 8.
Members of parliament from different alignments have expressed their concern over the increased protests by the members in diaspora, especially the opposition activists. Now, the concern were sparked off by the recent protests against President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on his arrival in the United States of America to involve in the African Leaders Summit. Frank Senabulia has the details.
A group of Ugandan activists recently staged protests at the White House in the United States of America over several issues including human rights, democracy, corruption, and illegal detentions, among others. Some of the protesters were wrapped in Ugandan flags and were holding placards chanting anti-government slogans, claiming that they were against President Museveni's visit to the United States, where he was invited for the U.S. African Leaders Summit, plus convening a meeting with President Joe Biden. Such protests by Ugandan activists living abroad have generated mixed reactions among members of parliament, with some MPs regarding them as being harmful to the Ugandan image internationally.
Ogenda kwekalakasira eri lwaki mwemukuze kati tewaliwo abapulezidenti abavudde mu Europe ne bajja wano oba abavudde mu America ne bajja wano Clinton yajja wano n'abalala bajja wano wali olabye Abaamerika beekalakasa wano nti nno ati naye tewali opposition wali ogezeko mu America n'olaba obwavu obuli abantu bali bubi ba-Americans bali bubi abasajja abakulu ngaaze emyaka 57 asula ku lubalaza ebintu ebiri mu America olowooza birungi ebiri e Bungereza mbaddeyo emyaka ntegeera ebiri eyo naye Abangereza bameka bajja wano ne beekalakaasa emitawaana gy'eggwanga mugisolobingira mu ggwanga ebyo byakweraga byakweraga sijja kubiwagira nawadde nakatonaba kati sibiwagira tuswaza Ugandanness. You are a Ugandan born here.
Nakawa West Member of Parliament, Honorable Joel Senyonyi, who also doubles as the spokesperson of National Unity Platform, supported the protesters, saying that it is their right to show their dissatisfaction in line with the Ugandan laws.
So bani abagamba nti NUP ekikumyemu tuse tukikumamu nga bannayuganda tubabuusa tubagula amaaso nga tubagamba amaanyi n'obuyinza buli mu mmwe oba toli mumativu omukulembeze mulage nti toli mumativu osobola okwekalakasa wekalakase kola kyonna kyosobola okukola ekikkirizibwa mu mateeka.
Omukulembeze w'eggwanga okukyala mu America teyagenze kukyala on a private visit. Tulina okumanya nti Uganda is a sovereign country. Omukulembeze w'eggwanga okukyala mu America yagenzeeyo no invitation by the leadership. So kutubeera nti waliwo bannaffe abali mu America nga bawakanya okukyala kwe because this is their country and this is their president.
The MP for Bukoto Central, Engineer Richard Sebamala, who subscribes to the Democratic Party, noted that government needs to keenly solve concerns raised by the protesters and address the shortcomings affecting Ugandans seeking for work abroad.
okulemera ku mawanga obutafa ku bannayuganda abali wabweru waayo nti omuntu bwafuluma babanga abagamba tukuwonye beekalakaase emitima gibaki.
Abaana bagenda ebweru batuuka okubonaabona bakuba amasimu bagamba mutuyambe gavumenti etuyambe ate gavumenti gye bagambe tuyambe yeeriwa yeera epriority wa president. So eyo bonna bakola byabwe I think they are just misguided.
According to an NRM member of parliament representing Bubulo East constituency, Honorable John Musira, many of the activists involved in the diaspora demonstrations circulating on social media are aiming at attaining citizenship in those countries abroad by portraying Uganda as a place of mistreatment.
Nali chairman, vice chairman wa Bugisco Cooperative Union. Never to go government yeno yenye eyange jempagina. Never to go. Na yena kenda nende to kwekalaka semba. Abana abamu nabakasa bana basanze mu America juice nabadde mu America mu Dallas nga badduka ne bagamba Museveni ayagala kututta biki ate nga nze yakola nze sadduka ne ba testify nga bifu twajja wano bakubanga kuona rebonisa so abo bagala butuuze baleke batuule tebagala butuuze si bya Uganda Ntebe nkevu Uganda tuli bulungi.
Honorable Musila, however, advised government to boost Ugandan sports industry that has flag high on the international scene despite rampant anti-government diaspora protests.
Era nensi yaffe ejja kumanyikana ebweru bulungi nnyo bamizanyo mwebale nnyo nsigadde Musila John the Rastaman.
Frank Senabulia, live at 8.
The 12th edition for the East African University Games is underway as they are going to be held at Ndejje University main campus in Luwero, where 40 universities are expected to participate. Now, Ndejje University teams intensify their preparations. Sarah Chirabo has the details.
The countdown to the 12th edition of the East African University Games is only hours away, so preparations are well and truly in their final stages. As of today, Ndejje University has 16 male teams and 15 female teams of 21 registered disciplines with over 350 athletes. Ndejje is looking to go better in this edition after being the champions of the last 6 editions since 2012 to the previous one of Dodoma 2018.
The task ahead of us is to defend the title. We have instructed our athletes to raise the tempo to ensure that they defend their championship successfully. And on a personal level, I have been informed by our experienced coaches and the supervisors that they have done a great job. And for us, we have provided amicable ambient in which our athletes have trained. It is hard sometimes to defend a championship and yet you're also hosting. And at the same time, the environment under which we are doing this dual role. But with God's intervention, faith and hope and love, we are going to succeed.
Department of Sports. The university teams flagged off on Wednesday morning at main campus Ruel. Athletics, woodball, swimming, badminton, chess and taekwondo sides, among others, are full of confidence after winning the different national titles, saying the familiarity of the team will provide them with an advantage in the games.
We train our players and we try to improve each and every day. A series of competitions, and one thing I can assure you that we've been better. Like every after the tournament we've been better. Like we have gotten better results than the ones we've got before. And for this time around, I think with my experience in Ndejje, I've been here since 2018, and I think for the very first time we have never prepared so hard like we've prepared today.
I'm glad that finally we have had a flag off. The games are so close, and I know with the good preparation we have had, with the very good players, we are going to make it. We are going to win these games.
Prepared. We have a team comprising of 5 boys and 5 girls. So we've done enough practice during these days as we are preparing for the games that are around the corner. So we believe that we are very prepared and we are going to take that trophy home.
East African University Games is a sports competition which brings East African countries to converge, hence creating platforms to athletes in different aspects of life.
I medal in the East African Games. Your rating may even 25th. and that helps you like to rub shoulders with better players. And basically we've been having domestic competitions, but right now we are having players that we've never faced, like players that we are not used to, so to help us with getting the experience and being spotted. And I think besides all African games, this is a very big in these games.
Yeah, far beyond just thinking about the games, I expect to network, because networking is very important, because there are several universities that are coming around. So I expect to interact more with various people, meet people in the different disciplines and get more. Then also, I expect to win some trophies here and there, some gold medals and that's because Ndejje puts around scholarships, so I expect to gain in that criteria also.
From December 16th to 21st, Ndejje University will host the East African University Games. Over 40 universities who confirmed their participation will arrive between today 15th to 16th December, and the ceremony is due to take place at Arena of Vision on Saturday 17th. Between 16th to 21st, various sports disciplines will happen at the university's sports ground, Led Irene, university's indoor rooms, Ndejje SS main hall and grounds, as well as NCS hockey grounds in Kampala. However, athletics will happen only on Monday, while other sports like football, handball and volleyball will happen on all days. Swimming will happen for 3 days from Sunday 18th to Tuesday 20th December. Sala Chirabo, live at 8.
Department of Sports. We shall
Thank you so much, our dear viewers. My name is Maseruka Robert. Of course, we are at Ndejje University TV. This is live at 8. Let us meet tomorrow in the same time and in the same station. Thank you. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.